The morning sun had just broken through the horizon, casting a soft, golden light over the quiet roadside diner. Steam rose from coffee cups. The low rumble of engines filled the crisp air, and the smell of fuel, bacon, and leather hung around the Hells Angels bikers who had stopped for breakfast. They looked tough, the kind of men people crossed the street to avoid, but beneath those vests, they carried stories no one ever asked about. The laughter between them echoed against the chrome of their motorcycles until a piercing, desperate cry shattered everything. Everyone turned. A tiny figure in a red dress came running across the parking lot, her boots slipping slightly on the cold pavement, her messy light brown hair flying behind her. Her face was streaked with tears and dirt, and her voice cracked with fear. "Please," she screamed, her arm outstretched, finger pointing back toward the road. "They're hurting my mama. Please, somebody help her." The group froze. The sound of her sobs was so raw that even the engines seemed to fall silent. A couple of truckers near the gas pumps turned their heads, but no one moved except one man. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in people who still step up when the world turns away, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because what happened next will restore your faith in humanity. The man who stepped forward was Mason Cole, a broad-shouldered biker in his late 30s, his jacket stitched with the red and white emblem of the Hells Angels. He'd seen a lot in life, fights, betrayals, blood, but never a child like this. He dropped to one knee, steadying her trembling hands. "Where's your mama?" he asked softly, though his voice still carried that gravelly weight. The little girl could barely speak through her tears, but she pointed again down the two-lane road toward a cluster of old trailers half hidden by trees. "They're beating her," she sobbed. "Please, help her." Without a second thought, Mason rose to his feet, his face hardening with purpose. "Tank, Ryder, with me," he said, motioning to two of his brothers. The three men swung their legs over their Harleys, engines roaring to life, tires screeching as they tore down the road. Dust and wind kicked up around the diner, leaving everyone in stunned silence. The little girl, still shaking, was taken inside by one of the other bikers who wrapped her in a leather jacket to keep her warm. She sat by the window, eyes wide, watching as the red taillights disappeared in the distance. The road stretched quiet for almost 5 minutes. Then, faintly, the sound of chaos drifted back, angry shouting, a woman's cry, and the roar of engines cutting through violence. Mason and his crew had found the trailer. Inside, what they saw burned into their memories forever. A man, drunk and furious, had cornered a woman against the wall, his fists already bloodied, his voice slurred with rage. The small cracked window let in a sliver of sunlight that fell across the terrified woman's face, bruised and swollen. Before he could strike again, the sound of boots hit the floorboards. Mason grabbed the man's wrist mid-swing and twisted it hard, forcing him to drop the bottle he'd been clutching. It shattered on the floor. The other bikers pinned him down effortlessly. No words, just action. Mason turned to the woman, his expression softening instantly. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked, voice trembling with controlled anger. She nodded weakly, tears spilling down her cheeks. Outside, the sound of police sirens began to echo faintly in the distance. A neighbor must have called it in. When the cops arrived, the bikers didn't run. They stood in the yard, calm, hands raised, the little girl clinging to Mason's leg. The woman, named Carla, stepped forward to explain everything. The man was her ex-boyfriend, freshly released from jail, who had tracked her down that morning. When the police led him away in handcuffs, Mason quietly walked the little girl, Hannah, back to his motorcycle. "You did good, kid," he said softly. "You were brave." They rode back to the diner together. Hannah sat on his lap, clutching a helmet far too big for her small head, as the morning sun now rose fully above the horizon. By the time they returned, a small crowd had gathered, truckers, travelers, locals, all waiting anxiously to see what had happened. When they saw Mason carrying the little girl, unharmed, with her mother walking slowly behind them, bruised but alive, every conversation stopped. The world seemed to go silent for a moment, as if no one wanted to break the spell. Carla, her voice shaking, thanked the bikers over and over. "I didn't think anyone would come," she whispered. Mason looked at her and simply said, "She made sure we did." He nodded toward Hannah, whose cheeks were still flushed from crying, but now carried the faintest hint of relief. The diner's owner came out with blankets and coffee, offering them quietly. One by one, the Hell's Angels removed their jackets and draped them around the two, a gesture so unexpected that even the police, still lingering by their cars, looked away in quiet respect. The patch on Mason's vest caught the light as he leaned down to speak to Hannah. "You take care of your mama now, all right?" he said. "You're her little guardian angel." The girl nodded, her small fingers gripping the edge of his sleeve. News of what happened spread fast, by lunchtime. Half the town had heard the story of the little girl who ran to the bikers and how the Hell's Angels didn't hesitate. Strangers stopped by the diner just to shake their hands, to thank them for stepping in when others froze. Mason wasn't a man of words, but when someone asked why they'd done it, he simply said, "You don't ignore a cry like that. Doesn't matter what patch you wear. Some things are just human." Over the next few weeks, Carla and Hannah started rebuilding their lives. The local community pitched in, people offered furniture, groceries, even a small apartment in town. And every Sunday, a group of bikers could be seen parked outside, checking in, bringing groceries, sometimes just sitting quietly at the diner table with a cup of coffee and the laughter of a child echoing around them. Months later, when the spring sun returned and the frost was gone, Hannah drew a picture in crayon, a row of motorcycles, a little girl in red, and a man kneeling down to help her. She gave it to Mason one morning, running up to him outside the diner. "This is us," she said proudly. Mason looked at the drawing for a long moment before folding it carefully and tucking it into his vest. "That's going with me wherever I ride," he said. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because sometimes the toughest hearts hide the deepest kindness. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were one of those bikers?